I seen it on Amazon, and I see you have some great reviews. I was super excited to see that. Do me a favor and tell me more about the book.
Well, the book, so I've had an entire career in civil engineering, but along the way, I accidentally started an ultralight backpacking gear company, Gossamer Gear. And through a number of stories, which are in the book, obviously, but I got interested in going out backpacking with less weight. I was involved in Boy Scouts, and the boys, when they cross over, sometimes haven't hit their growth spurt yet. They're just small guys, and we're loading them up for a week in the Sierras, and it's a struggle. So I thought about how could we make these packs lighter, and read some, the book that was Ray Jardine's book out at the time really started the journey. And so I started sewing my own gear, and it kind of got out of hand and started a company on the side. I've always worked full-time in civil engineering, so I've never been paid by the gear company. But so that as I worked through the years, actually probably started in 1976 when I graduated high school and rode my bicycle 4,200 miles across the U.S. To get from the East Coast to where I live now on the West Coast. So I realized that at some point that the 50 years basically I'd spent reducing my pack weight, that some of the lessons I'd learned had greater application. They had application to other areas of life. And so I was eventually pestered into writing a book about it, which is what happened.
Wow. And it's, I can't take out of my head, you said I accidentally. Because it's so funny because I swear that I think the biggest things in life are often on an accident and not very intentional. Must be meant for you to have done this. And so you said you were a civil engineer. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you said you rode 4,000 plus miles on your bike?
Yeah, for some reason, and I don't know why, I thought it would be a fun idea. And actually, it's to date the biggest, probably longest adventure I've still done, almost 50 years later. And actually, this is kind of exciting. Thanks to the magic of the internet, I'm in touch with the three guys that came along with me on that trip. And we're talking about in 2026 will be the 50-year anniversary of that ride, doing another ride, kind of complete the loop, ride from the West Coast back to the East Coast. So we'll see how that goes. It's early stages, but that would be an exciting. It's probably one of the guys said he wants to write a book about that trip, so that would be fun.
I tell you that's a lot, but I commend you for that because and you're thinking about doing it again?
Yeah, well, we're talking about it, and now a couple of guys have said, 50 years almost have gone by. A couple of guys have said that they may need e-bikes this time around, and they're not as excited about sleeping in the dirt. At least one has said, no, this will be hotels for the nights,
Yeah, yeah.
or an RV or something. I don't know. We're still early stages, but be exciting to complete the loop, 50 years later.
Definitely. And so, interesting enough, after all of your careers and all of your experiences, you write this book, Take Less, Do More. Surprising life lessons in generosity, gratitude, curiosity. Please share with me what made you focus on those life lessons.
Well, there are a number, and it was writing a book's the first time I've done this, and it was an interesting process. Coming up with the title and the subtitle, and those seem to be. We had a number of go-arounds with the publishers, but those seem to be good summary characteristics, things that were interesting to people, maybe not typical. There's a lot of books on gratitude. I guess there's a lot of books on all those. It's staggering walking into a bookstore. It's like, oh, no wonder no one makes money writing a book. So it's like there's billions of them out there,
Yes.
and that's just in a bookstore. That's not counting the internet. But it was a fun process, and I enjoy the people that I met along the way. You know, I've got some new friends
Yeah.
at the publisher and the publicist and podcast hosts. You know, there's a number of there's some podcast hosts that are, you know, we just connected and they're making plans to visit my house and we're going to go backpacking and it's going to be great. So yeah, you just never know. I liked what you said about you know, you picked up on the accidental, and it's interesting sometimes to think about things that are in your life now and the very thin thread that leads through life to
Mhm.
that. And at any point, you know, if you hadn't met so and so, or they hadn't talked about such and such, or you hadn't been wearing that red jacket that day, or whatever it is, you know, there's so many little things that these big events turn on. You know, it makes, to me, it's like exciting. You know, now when I meet someone new, I'm excited because I wonder, like, oh, do they have some problem that I'm going to be able to help solve, or I know I'm going to be able to connect them with someone,
Yeah.
or is this someone that I'm meeting that needs to tell me some truth that I need to hear, or is this someone who's going to help me with some project? You know, I've been thinking about doing ABC and looking for someone that knows something about that, and you know, I mean, they might know someone that knows that, so
Yeah.
it's always exciting.
Yeah, it's as you mentioned it, I got goosebumps because I love life. Like the life that we live and the things that we can reflect on. And as you mentioned, that thin thread, you just never know what's going to happen. And for those that are open, such as you and myself, to receiving and giving, a whole bunch of good accidents could happen.
Yeah.
And you are a testament of that because when you mentioned that and I heard that and I was like, those are good troubles, you know, good blessings, good things that can occur out of something you had no clue or love or passion for. And of course, we wouldn't be Vision Pros Live if I did not ask you to tell me about your vision in this all.
My vision is, I guess, in different parts. At a basic level, my vision is to help more people get outside. I think there's power in wilderness and getting away, getting unconnected and unplugged,
Yes.
and creating gear that allows people to do that more easily with less weight is why I accidentally started the gear company. And that's our driving mission to this day. Um, and then I guess to expand that to a larger level, I mean, it's important, I think, for people to unplug and get outside and give their brains time to unwind and wander, as it were, to make connections that they didn't have time and energy to make
Yeah.
at their desk. Um, is larger vision is applying that to life in general, so that people um, can have more purpose and meaning in their lives. You know, to look like you do. You know, look for that next. What's that next connection going to be? And
Yeah.
you know, what awesomeness am I going to stumble around the next corner?
Yeah. It's and backpacking, I have not ever met anyone that did ultra backpacking at all. I love the outdoors. So one thing you mentioned that is definitely something that I could relate to, and I'm sure many of the people that will watch this is the sereneness of being outdoors and being with the earth, the sounds. But also, I think it's about that generosity and that gratitude and the curiosity. Actually, want to be there and do those things, which of course, hence have the words in your book. I love that. I love that. So now that you have this book out, what has come about? What new things have you experienced, or new people that you've met?
And that's one of the exciting things is new people that I'm meeting through the book. I'm an introvert, so you know, I have to push myself to talk to strangers and things like that. Although, I mean, I know amazing things happen when I do, but it's still a struggle. It's something I need to push myself to do. But I've met people in different parts of the world.
Mhm.
we've met. We've actually, I mean, we have friends in Japan that are long-term friends, um, and that's deepened through the book. But I'm talking to someone about speaking to like 2,500 people at the Air Force, and that would not have come together without this book. And just the emails I'm getting from people, it's interesting to me to find the things that they're taking out of the book.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, there's nothing revolutionary. I haven't discovered any new like secret to the meaning of life or anything.
Yeah.
But people, people receive things in like different words and at different times in their lives. And so, for some people, the timing of my book and the words that I chose for the stories that I tell are colliding and making something meaningful to them. And so it's exciting to hear those stories. It's a lot of work. I'm kind of in my mind saying I'll give it a year. So we'll see come, April of 25, how much time and energy I still want to devote to it, but
Mm.
we'll see.
Well, Glenn, that's a legacy. I tell everybody you can do a podcast, and yes, it's recorded. You can do anything, but a book will sit on a shelf and often be read at the right time for the right people. So I think that's amazing. Do you plan on writing another one?
Well, my standard response is no. I mean,
Yes,
it was a
I
lot.
see the look on your face.
It was a lot. It was a lot of work. There is actually a project. I mean, the first thing we're kind of working on some study guides for the book to maybe like a faith-based study guide, so small groups could use it. A book club study guide, maybe a leadership study guide. But I'm a big fan of handwritten notes, and have lots of stories of how things like those little turning points in those
Yes.
threads that we talked about.
Yeah.
A lot of those have been handwritten notes.
Mm.
And so, I mean, I can trace lifelong friendships and, millions of dollars in deals to a handwritten note. So I kind of rattling my brain, maybe if I get bored with life, at some point is to write a shorter book on kind of handwritten notes, start with like the history of paper and ink and writing and how it used to be kind of standard practice. It was expected. And now with email, it's so much easier to type something out or text something. And so to
Yeah.
actually write something and put in the mail is a rarity that I think I could bring back.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting enough, as I am a real estate agent full time, and I handwrite my cards. It just has thank you on it. But I tell you, I think that there's so much more into handwriting, and uh, I get in my head making sure that my writing is beautiful. However, I think it means so much more, and it allows people to see that you've taken the time to do so. So I do have an understanding of that, and I would love to see that because that's definitely different. Definitely different. Um,
And I mean, it's a connection. The writing is, it physically connects you. And I mean, I have so many stories about handwritten notes where, I've gone to someone's like desk that I never met before. I mean, we corresponded, and pinned above their desk is a note that I wrote like 10 years ago.
mm,
And they pin that like they're looking at it every single
yeah.
day. No one looks at an email every single day. Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and you know that it's personal and it's to that person. So it just means a lot. When it comes to generosity and gratitude, how does that play a role in the lessons you've learned in ultralight backpacking?
Well, I think when you're on the trail, and you mentioned this about backpacking, it's kind of a different world. It removes you from this world and all the conveniences and systems you have. And so in some ways you need to depend more on each other, the other people out there hiking with you. If you forgot Band-Aids and someone has some or something like that, you can't run to the store. You have to take care of each other. And that's interestingly one of the things that I find again and again is resonating with people. I think most people want to be generous. but aren't systematic about it. And so early on in our careers, actually, and even before I was married, and that was 42 years ago, I have set aside a separate account, separate checking account, and a certain percentage of all my income goes into that account. And so when needs come across my path, I don't need to ask if I have money or not to address them. I just need to say, well, does this have my name on it?
Yeah.
And if it does, there's money to address that because I've already set it aside. And so that makes sure I'm intentional. I'm able to address the needs that God's putting in my path for me to take care of. And we started with a very small percentage, and now it's quite a large percentage of our income that goes into that. And I've got so many stories on that. Also, we had someone Francie worked with, and her son made some bad decisions and ended up in prison and died there, and she didn't have money for a funeral. And we're able to write $1,000 check, and it doesn't make any difference in our lifestyle because that money's already set aside for that kind of thing.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.